I've been wanting to go through these because when I went to prison, I had very little education. Like I tell people, I just throughout my years of school, I don't know why I couldn't pay attention. I couldn't sit still. Everything that the teacher would say or talk about, it was like Chinese to me. I just couldn't get it, and they would just kind of pass me on. I remember in sixth grade when I got back to the United States, I had to be placed in bilingual classes because from moving around so much, man, from going to Mexico back over here to California, every time we moved, I just fell back more and more and more. And it got to the point where I didn't even speak English or Spanish, like I was somewhere in the middle. And I always remember when I went back to Mexico, I was so far back that I was supposed to be like in fifth grade here in the United States. And over there, they placed me like in second grade. And being like the biggest kid, feeling dumb. Um, I guess you could say I carried that on to the kind of like later on to my older years. And I just didn't pay attention no more at school. I didn't. I kind of checked out. I used everything that I wasn't understanding to my advantage. I had just moved back to the United States, and my dad wasn't really present. He was always out dating, out doing stuff, and I got to roam the streets, and that's where I kind of like grew up, and I didn't really think that the classroom was helping me in any sort or doing anything for me. So I didn't attend. I didn't go to school. I ditched as much as I could. Um, to the point where I just got passed. From sixth grade, they just passed me to seven. From seven, they just passed me to eight. From eight, they just passed me to freshman. And every year, I went to a different school, sometimes even two schools. So when I got to prison, I knew how to read very little. I think my reading and comprehension level were like third grade. Like my writing skills were really bad. I didn't know what a noun was. I didn't know what a verb was. Just it was bad. Um, but then when I started doing time, you start to realize that there's things in there that you do to kill time, and one of them is educating yourself, reading, writing. So it made my time hard at the beginning. It made my time limited. There wasn't much I could. You could only work out so many times on the yard. You could only do a couple of chess games or card games, and even playing chess. When I started educating myself, I learned how to play chess. But these were all things that I had to teach myself in prison in order for me to evolve and stay active and stay, I guess you could say, strong in prison, mentally, physically, everything. It was a combination of learning, working out and all that stuff. And one of the biggest things that I took with me in there, as a kid, I was always a dreamer. Being very limited on everything we did when the abuse was happening as a kid, not being able to watch cartoons, not having toys, all those things made me become a dreamer where I would have full blown movies in my head. We would be driving somewhere and I would be looking out the window and I would vision and man running next to the car, jumping the hills and all that stuff. And I became a dreamer, man. I became a visionary. I became a lot of things. And when I went to prison, I took that with me, and I started to think about a lot of things. When I went to solitary confinement, that made me even evolve more into more of a thinking man, and I started to think, if I make it out of here one day, what can I be, or can I be something? And even those small questions started to a chain of an effect. And it's been some time that I've been wanting to share these notebooks because I started to journal in prison, man. I started to journal in prison. I saw a lot of the older guys doing it, and I started to do it, and it's funny because sometimes I don't even know what some of the words mean because my spelling is so bad, but it shows me where I was in that time and moment when I was writing it, and it also, you know, gives me a sense of accomplishment because a lot of the things that I wrote on here have been accomplished. You know, a lot of the things that I'm doing today are on this journal, and you know, even the first names before wrong to strong. You know, I had Rec Yard Fitness, Filthy Fitness. I was gonna make that into a clothing line. Life Sentence to Fitness. Um, Trainers will be wearing shirts that don't say trainer; they'll say judges on the back. Clients will be given T-shirts with numbers. Upon completing the extreme transformation program, client will earn the shirt with life sentence to fitness. If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. You know, I had so many ideas that I was writing down and names and logos and stuff like that. And that's why one of the biggest things that I teach my guys that I work with that are still, you know, doing time or incarcerated or in a substance abuse facility is to journal because your thoughts will never be that deep, that dark, or that open again, and you have to be able to write this stuff down if you want to grow and see how much you've grown one day. Because I mean, there was stuff on here that I had to look back and I was like, wow, you know, I can't believe that I wrote that. There's poetry on here. There's workout, micronutrient diets, calculate how to calculate your energy, your BMR, Flex Lewis's workout diet. um, it was just information that I would sit down and even though I was reading it out of a book, I would write it down and take notes on it because it was information that was important to me. Um, I remember this one. Trash talk is an unfortunate part of modern life. Even the most skilled and talented people have people who badmouth them and try to bring them down. Unfortunately, you have your biggest fan in your corner, yourself. Positive self talk, You see, all this stuff that I was reading in there, I was teaching myself because I wanted to become someone different. I was tired of being in prison. I was tired of, you know, just feeling like I was just in the twilight zone, like I was lost in time. I was tired of being a nobody. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you know, I wanted so much information, and I was hungry for it. Workouts, metabolism, business plans, and a lot of the stuff that's on here, guys. I completed. I I I became a 5% athlete, sponsored athlete. Like it happened. Um, I had the list over here of stuff that I needed to do because, you know, for some reason, I knew that social media was gonna be like the new big thing. You know, I knew that that's how business was gonna be done. I had a list of important people in my life and people that I disliked. I, you know, okay, here we go. Fine, this was my list that I had to do in the first couple of months that I had gotten out. Um, I need a smartphone with a good plan. A month to month plan, a laptop with a printer. I guess everything doesn't have cables nowadays. They call it Bluetooth. Microphones for recording voice, things, and videos. And this is before I got out, guys. This is before I even started social media. So like I had already started getting ready for something that I didn't. If that's not faith, I don't know what is. Um, Launch your fitness clothing line, videos, reality show, gym, 5% business. First month, find work, boom. Uh, get my training license. I got that before I came home. Where are you going to live? Get back in the gym, get in shape. Get a hold of clients, new and old. Child support. My driver's license. Set dates for competitions. Start video shoots before and after. Talk to whoever at all gyms. Find the college you need to find. Students, start. And writing, get paperwork for even this. And I was just telling Julian about this. Get the paperwork done for students from ASU. I had ASU on here. Obviously, Julian's from another school, but all this was already planned, though. I dreamed it. A dream is just a dream. A goal is a dream with a plan and a deadline. And I wrote that down because it was just I wanted to be different. And I know in order for me to become something different, I had to do things that I had never done before. And that means that I had to talk different. I had to educate myself. I had to take notes. I had to work a little bit harder because most people were ahead of me. So, I had to learn all this in prison, and I had to bring that out with me and kind of reteach myself to do all that out here, though, because in prison it's easy. It's easy because they tell you what time your door is going to lock. They tell you what time it's going to open. They tell you what time you're going to eat. They tell you what time to turn off the light. So it's easy to be, on a control movement basis in there. The hard part is when that gate opens and you're left to your free will. It's almost like, in scripture, we know what's right and wrong. After that, God is like, get your stuff together. That gate opens and then all the stuff starts flying by, women, money, friends, everything that honestly doesn't help you, doesn't make sense unless it's in like a healthy way, like family. I had to learn to reintegrate into my family and be loved by my family and love my family. That was something that I had to learn. Um, so I had to teach myself a lot of things, and this journal stuff is what helped me. I mean, the most because every time I was feeling a little bit down, I'm not gonna lie, like I felt like life was being unfair to me. I was on that whole victim trip. I would sit back and I would open these notebooks up and I would read them, and I would be like, "Wow, man! Like, look at how far I've come from where I was." Um, Not only in my vocabulary, my education, but like in life, like telling my story in order to help people, not telling my story to make people feel bad for me. Um, and being able to tell my story without crying, without that hurt, because before I would share parts and bits of my story and I couldn't get two words out because I would start to cry because emotionally I was still a child. Emotionally, I still didn't have no growth. I had to take a little bit of time to heal in order for me to be able to tell that story and share it without the tears, with the purpose of teaching someone to not believe that that's it. There's other ways. And you could relearn. I guess you could. The way I'm trying to say it is, I had to relearn life again. I had to take away everything I had learned because most of my life, my teachers were, guys on the street, gang members, people selling drugs, people that were up to no good. Did my family step in here and there? They tried. They tried. They tried, but I had already been through so much as a kid, as a child, from the age of 4 to 9, that by the time I was 10, I was already, on a whole different level. You guys have heard me talk about this. My best friend Phil, he got shot and died, right in front of me, and me experiencing a murder right when I got back from Mexico. I was in fifth grade. Um, just did something to me. It really did. And then that happened year after year after year, all the way into my, teenage years, into my adult years, and it never stopped. When I was in Mexico, it was even worse. So I have to believe that all that stuff happening, the trauma, all that made slowed down my education a lot. Because now that I'm not surviving, and I'm living, I'm like peaceful. I enjoy reading. I enjoy doing certain things. It's I educate myself without even knowing. And it's just a routine of being consistent. And I'm reading a book right now about marketing. And it's about building a hero. It's called Marketing Strategies Made Easy, or something like that. Where's it at? I hate when I don't say something right, because then people are like, "Oh, you said it. You didn't say it the right way." you know, Someone will always have something to say. Business Made Simple. Yeah, Business Made Simple by Donald Miller. That right there. So right now, what I'm doing, I'm in a on a very high frequency for the next 30 days. I am gonna get into the best shape of my life. Now that I have the time that I'm not training clients, I'm gonna focus on the studio. I'm gonna focus on the halfway house that we're trying to open by January. Um, and just focus on this whole like coaching program, all this stuff that I'm doing right now, because I'm not at the gym full time no more. I'm spending time at the prisons. I'm spending time at the studio. I'm spending time doing what I love to do. So the next 30 days, I'm waking up at 3, and from 3 to 5, not touching my phone. It's called the red zone. Not touching my phone. I'm getting up. I cut my coffee consumption down. No coffee in the mornings. A glass of water. Read my Bible. A small workout, just like push-ups, squats, just to wake up the body, because we have to wake everything up, the whole machine. It's not just, drinking water, your stomach. No, it's your mind, your body, everything. So a couple push-ups, squats, blah, blah, blah. Eat, cold shower, because cold showers, you see, people don't realize I've been doing cold plunges for a very long time. In Mexico, when I went to the poor side of the prison, they didn't have no hot water. So I kind of got used to taking cold showers. So I still take them here. Um, you don't need a cold plunge in Arizona. Like, the water comes out pretty cold during the winter time and sometimes in the summertime. But I'm a firm believer in the cold showers. I'm a firm believer in what it does to your body, how it resets everything. And being uncomfortable is what always builds. So cold showers, journal, and speak life into my day. That's the most powerful moment, because I get here a little bit 30 minutes earlier than Julian, the student, and I meditate and I speak life into my day. What's my day gonna look like? What am I gonna do? Who am I gonna focus on? What am I gonna take care of? And these are all things, guys, that it took me 7 years to learn, because I came home in 2017. Like I said, in prison, it's easy to sit down when the door is locked and have to journal. Yeah, you get locked down for every count. So you get a couple of times where you get to do stuff. It's forced. You evolved. You're forced to evolve in there, especially if you're part of an organization, because you're gonna work out. If you have a good leader, they're gonna push you to education. So there's things that you're forced to do in there that's easy. But when you get out here, it's like working from home. A lot of people can't work from home because they'll start doing other stuff and they won't get their stuff done. I'm the same way. At home, there's certain things that I could work on and certain things I can't. I could work on my website at home. I could work on certain things at home, videos, editing, stuff like that. But other stuff where I have to write emails and stuff like that, I can't do it at home because I'll end up next to my wife on the sofa watching TV or something. And that's just what it is. But I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses, so I use them to my advantage. And I leave the house early enough for me to be able to come to the studio, sit some time in the office, get my recordings done. And now that I have, help at the studio with Julian, the editing's done. Videos are going up on regular basis. But I can't stress enough, guys, about the power of the journal. I know I went off on this whole rant about everything else, but it all ties into this. I learned even about minerals, which ones were vitamins. Some vitamins are water based, some vitamins are not. Testosterone. Um, I I I taught myself so much that by the time I took my sports nutrition degree through the college, I almost aced the test because I pretty much knew what proteins, carbs, what calories they did, what how your insulin got spiked, what testosterone levels were normal, I learned so much that the test was pretty easy, but it was because of my journaling. Because you know it's one thing to read it, it's another thing to write it down, then it's another thing to watch it. So like I would do that, and I took it very very serious in there. I remember I even made some changes. I was living in a over there in Lompoc, California. I was living in a smaller dorm that was like everybody wanted to live there because it was smaller. All the workers lived there. Blah blah blah. I made changes to go to one of the busiest, ghettoest dorms just because it had a desk on the bed. and I'm one of those dudes that everything, not, I don't want to say everything has to be perfect, but everything has to suit me, enable for me to get the job done. And for me to be able to journal, I had to sit down on a desk and journal. I can't do it on my bed. I'm not a reader that reads in his bed. No, I have to sit up or stand up. When I journal, I have to sit down. I have to be at a desk. Um, when I got out of prison, I pride myself on doing everything off the bed because in there you learn to do everything on your bed because that's pretty much like your sofa, your bed. It's very, very personal. If you've done time before, you already know that you don't sit on another man's bed. You ask permission first. It's very sacred. It's where you you eat, you cry, you do everything. So when I came home, I made myself sit on the sofa. I made myself sit in the kitchen to eat. I trained myself to use the house, to get out of that mindset. Because believe it or not, all those little things, man, can set you back and can put you in trouble. Hey, my name's JC. I am Wrong the Strong. Súbanse a la Suburban, because we're about to take a ride.